Guys ready?
Yep.
Okay. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the regular town board meeting and workshop. Today is Monday, June 22nd, and please join me as we pledge allegiance to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so we have a 6:30 executive session scheduled to discuss personnel issues. May I have a motion to enter executive session?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we'll be back.
Hope I got them in order to. Here you go. You're gonna get them last through.
We haven't had a meeting in a while. Did we miss one or something? I don't know. Okay.
Ooh, don't fall off.
May I have a motion to return from executive session?
So moved.
And a second?
Second?
And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, the first item on our agenda is a workshop. We have O'Connor Davies here to discuss our 2014 audit. So Dominic, would you mind, why don't you have a seat there? And TC, you want to go on up there too? Actually, yeah. It's a little bit more comfortable than standing at the podium. Thank you.
Good to see you.
Did you see the audit, Warren?
Good evening. Another year has passed. We're here again.
Yes, thank you.
And we've now completed the audit for the year ended December 31st, 2014. The report was actually issued and dated on May 7th, 2015.
Well, thank you for coming up to Hyde Park again.
My pleasure.
It was a good night, actually, for it.
We've issued a financial report, which is a thick document. I hope you all have in front of you. There's also a management letter issued and a audit of the town justice court. In the financial statement, the town has two major funds, the general fund and the highway fund, and I'd just briefly like to take you through both of them this evening. And the general fund, I'll start on page 47, for those of you who had a copy of the report. And on page 47, we have the schedule of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance, both budget and actual, for the general fund for the year ended December 31st, 2014. And on the very next page, page 48, we have comparative amounts for 2013. As you can see, it's a 4-column presentation. The original budget, which was the budget adopted by this board way back in probably December of 2013. The final budget, which takes into consideration any changes made during the year and again approved by the board. The actual results of operations, which is the receipts and disbursements made during the year. That's page 47 and 48, by the way. And a variance column, which is simply the difference between the final budget and the actual. You'll see that down at the bottom of the page, under the original budget column, there's a negative number in the third line up of 193,125. And what makes up that number is that when you adopted your budget, you had carryover open purchase orders of about $40,000. And when the budget was adopted, the expenditures exceeded the revenues. So when the expenditures exceed the revenues, the board must adopt the balanced budget, of course. But what the board did is it used its fund balance, its savings account, to balance that budget. And you used $153,492. Basically, what you did is you gave back money to the taxpayers that you'd accumulated in previous years. If these funds were not available, the board would have had a couple of options. Could have increased the real property taxes. It could have cut the expenditures, or could have done a mixture of both. But you had the fund balance, you used it, you gave it back. In the final budget column, again, that third line up from the bottom, you'll see during the year there were some changes, and now it was anticipated that the town would utilize some $301,000 of fund balance. So if the budget had come out exactly as anticipated, the fund balance of the town would have dropped by $301,000. If you go to the next column, the actual column, you see that indeed the fund balance did drop, but it didn't drop by $301,000. It dropped by only approximately $18,000. So all in all, certainly a very positive year for the town of Hyde Park. The difference when you compare that to budget, you had a positive budget surplus of $282,000. Now, surplus, of course, comes from two areas: your revenue side, your expenditure side. About a third of the way down the page, you'll see your total revenues. In the final budget, anticipated revenues at $5.7 million. You actually collected $5,875,000. So the revenue side of the budget had a positive variance of almost $173,000, which is approximately 3% of that revenue budget. So 97% accurate. I'd say that's very good. The largest portion of that $173,000 came from the third item from the top, as you'll see. Non-property taxes, $136,689. That's the sharing of the sales tax from the county. That's what produced that. On the expenditure side of the budget, which is almost three-quarters down, you see you anticipated spending some $6,030,000. You spent $5,902,000. So there was $128,000 savings on the expenditure side of the budget. And that's about 2% of the budget, so certainly fair, to say the least. And the biggest item there you'll see is the culture and recreation area. You were able to save some $82,595 on the in the culture and rec area. So again, going back to that actual column, just to summarize here, you did use your fund balance in the amount of $17,826. So you reduced your fund balance by that amount. You started the year with a beginning fund balance of some $953,000. So you end the year with a fund balance of $935,000. And if you just go back one page to page 46. And on page 46, you have your balance sheet. This is the statement of financial condition. Reflects the assets, the liabilities, and the fund balance of the town exactly as it existed on December 31st of 2014. You'll see total assets, $1,011,000, total liabilities of $76,000, and total fund balance, again, $934,932. And you'll see it's made up of 4 separate categories. The first category is non-spendable, and this is because of your prepayments to the state retirement systems for both your employees and your police and fire. When you pay the bill in December, there's an estimate through March of the next year. So those amounts, because the cash is no longer there, you don't have that cash to spend, so it's labeled as non-spendable. You have restricted fund balance, $279,647, and that's made up of amounts put aside for compensated absences. That's accrued vacation and sick time of your employees that may be due upon their separation from service. And that $200,000 last year was approximately $140,000. So you've added $60,000 of new dollars to that compensated absence restriction. You've put aside $40,000 for judgments and claims, which could be used for either tax certs or uninsured judgments or claims against the town, and that's $40,000, and that's a brand new restriction again that was set up. And there's amounts set aside for debt service of some $39,000. Could only be used for the payment of debt service. You then have your assigned fund balance, and here you have open purchase orders that you've put aside money, probably already been expended at this point in 2015, but there were open purchase orders at December 31st, 2014 of $65,568. And you've used $50,000 to balance the 2015 budget. So again, the preparation of that budget, you used surplus and gave it back to the taxpayers rather than raising real property taxes by another $50,000. And that's also a very positive amount because in the prior year, as I said before, you used $153,000. And to use your savings account to balance your budget is really not a great idea because sooner or later you might run out of savings. So that's certainly a major step in the right direction to lessen the use of fund balance from $153,000 down to $50,000. The rating agencies will love that, I assure you. And then you have your unassigned. This is the free and clear money. This is what's left for cash flow or any amounts that may be needed in subsequent years, emergencies, what have you. And that's $402,000 almost. That's about 6.7% of your $6 million general fund budget. So certainly the town is in excellent financial condition at December 31st of 2014.
Great, thank you for that affirmation.
Any questions? I'll briefly take you through the highway fund if there's no questions on the general fund. All right, the highway's on page 55. And you'll see down at the bottom there that the highway has a total fund balance of $411,000. Again, in 3 categories this time. The non-spendables, $51,000, same thing with the retirement. This is only the ERS though. The restrictions, you have $60,000, which has been set aside for compensated absences, and $140,000, which I don't know, I didn't ask Tom, I don't know if he needed it in January, February of this year, but that's your snow and ice reserve.
140?
That's it.
Okay, so that's certainly a great reserve to have right now, especially when you see in winters like the couple we've had in the last few years.
Could you repeat that? Where was
Where's
the? I thought you said 140,000, and we don't see that.
Well, it's all in that
Oh, it's
restricted
part
number of
of-
271.
Okay.
The detail of that,
Within that, yeah.
just so you know, I refer back to it myself, is on page 42.
Okay.
So we
Thanks.
can actually read from 42 there. You'll see that first one, the compensated absences, that, under the highway column, the second column. The snow and ice removal, 140, and then again, debt service for $72,000.
Yeah, that's where I thought we were, and that's good because we will need it for the.
And then you've used $30,000 to balance the 2015 budget, And again, very positive, because in the prior year, you used $94,000. And that left you the free and clear money of some $57,000, $58,000. And I think that's also about 6-7% of your 2,000, no, excuse me, it's free and clear, and, you know, you do have those other reserves which you needed, especially the snow and ice. So the highway fund is also in good shape. You have some other funds, if you just like to look through them. On page 58, you have your special districts.
They're going away.
Actually, the details are more on 60 and 61. You can see all the various special districts that you have, and you can see they're all in positive financial condition, except for a small deficit in the consolidated lighting district.
Central, that's it.
And then on pages 64 and 65, you have your project length. These are all your ongoing capital projects. Shows what the authorization to date is, the expenditures to date, because capital projects do go over a number of years. They don't lapse at year end. Shows the methods of financing and the fund balance or deficit, and which is covered by the outstanding bands that are being paid over a 5-year period, or at some point maybe converted bonds. And that, I believe, covers the highlights of the report
Yes.
anyway.
This is terrific.
Well, that's all very good news, and I would just like to take this moment to commend the comptroller and his excellent staff. We have Joanne Lown and Sandy Bruno and the comptroller. They really work as a team. We have a couple of part-time people also, and sometimes it's really annoying to have him breathing down our neck and telling us that we can't spend this, we can't spend that. But at this point, we're very appreciative, and we feel good considering the fact that we lived within the cap and experienced probably one of the worst winters in recent memory. So we're happy to hear this news, and thank you for doing your audit so efficiently, and
Thank you.
appreciate it. Does
Enjoy your
anyone
summer.
have any questions for Dominic?
No, it's
No.
great. I mean, it's I'm especially pleased that we've been able to build up those restricted reserve funds so that we're really prepared for anything that might come up in the future, and while still maintaining an unrestricted fund balance for those things as well.
You know,
I want to make note that O'Connor Davies is very cooperative. We call him for any particular question throughout the year. They don't put it on additional billing. So other accounting firms, if you call them for information or request opinions and interpretations, they could bill you. But this firm does not. They take care of us. I think a good question you should ask him, and what kind of a strain does you see on municipal budgets for this tax cap?
yeah, that would
He's
be.
been experiencing that. They do budget reviews. Maybe he could give you a
Yeah, so like a general overview of how most municipalities are coping with the tax cap.
It's pretty interesting, actually, because I really assume the ones that will be hurt the most right now are school districts. Because if this town had to break the cap for some reason, it's just this board that would have to vote on that, 60% of this board. Schools need 60% of the general public, and I don't know of many that have tried, and a couple tried and failed.
Yeah.
So I really thought that the strain would be there. And as of yet, believe it or not, I'm not seeing it. They've made some cuts, is what they did.
Well, I think there's a couple of factors. The demographics, where a lot of student populations are declining, I think is entering into it. And the fact that they don't have to include their capital costs, their borrowings, in their budget. Am I correct in that?
It's right. That's raised in excess of the cap because those are voted on separately by the public.
Because I think that's the unfair aspect to the application of the tax cap, is that municipalities, our borrowings are included in the tax cap calculation, and so that is really a deterrent to towns investing in themselves. And I'm wondering if that will ever be addressed in Albany, that kind of, I know that there's.
This
been
is the
talk
year it sunsets, as you probably all know.
Yeah.
And, Albany has asked, for some changes, and, they've asked some towns and villages and schools what changes they would like to see.
Yeah.
So I'm sure they have a multitude in hand. I don't know which ones they'll pick and which ones they won't.
Yeah.
Like I said, I haven't seen anybody get into real trouble yet. They're just making the cuts.
Yeah.
But sooner or later, the cuts have to run out. And what's happening, especially in schools, and I'm sure you see some of that here too, that even if you give your employees 0 raises, which you can't do every year, it's absolutely impossible and certainly not fair. But just the steps and lanes alone are more than the tax cap.
Yes.
It can't work.
No.
So-
Not unless you lay off staff. But there does become a bare minimum of services you have to provide. And we're getting there.
That's what I'm saying. I think everybody is getting there
Yeah.
and not there yet.
I mean, I feel, we offer some great services, but we are cut to the quick. I mean, it's not like we have 6 people running around on lawnmowers and excess in the highway and excess in the town hall. I mean, we really have cut to the quick, and when there's retirement, we don't replace, and
Correct.
so it is becoming more and more difficult, and I give Supervisor Aurora a lot of credit. She really has her pulse on the monies here, and it shows in the budget, and I appreciate that. But there has to be some sort of relief at some point, especially with the county, with that sales tax, and it's
Well, it really is sales tax dependent. I mean, I think that if the economy improves and we see our sales tax receipts and our mortgage tax receipts
yeah, sure.
improving, then you can continue to live within the cap. But it's like a double whammy because you have the cap as well as just these losses in revenues.
right, and the mandates coming down from Albany hurt.
And, the shared service concept has been touted as the panacea, but the reality is you still have to plow a road, or you still have to
Yeah.
provide water. So just because someone else is doing it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be cheaper.
Right.
And the mortgage tax, something interesting, because I've seen this everywhere I've been this year, and I don't know what's caused it. But last year, it took a nice jump for 2013. Your receipts for 2013 were almost $365,000. This year, I'm seeing it everywhere. Everybody is down. You're down to $254. So you lost over $100,000
Yep.
from the prior year mortgage tax. I don't know if the housing market stopped dead. I don't know what happened. I thought it was still going pretty well.
You know what? I think a lot of it is the foreclosures that are bottled up, and that the banks are not really moving through the system. So I think there's like a bottleneck there. And I think once they resolve a lot of those foreclosures, because then the properties will turn over. Because even if investors are buying them, they're renovating them and selling them for. A lot of times, investors are buying them for cash, but homeowners are going to get a mortgage. So I think once we get through this foreclosure continuing debacle, then we should really, I'm hoping, see improvement in the mortgage taxes. And of course, it's all about jobs too, isn't it?
Well, the job seems to be improving every month.
Yeah. Not as well as we'd like, but yeah, they're getting there. Well,
Thank you.
Thank you, Dominic,
Thank you.
and
Thank you for having
very,
me.
very
Thank you.
appreciative. Take care. Thanks, TC, for sticking around.
This is what I'm working on now. This is grass.
Okay, so the next item on our workshop agenda is the GREENTREE SEQRA review, and Warren's going to lead us through that and kind of give us a recap of all he's been working on, and it's been a tremendous effort on his part, and I appreciate it.
So where we are now is we have finally, just this afternoon, negotiated final agreement with the county and with the New York State Spill Fund. And what's going to happen as a result of a 3-way agreement among the town, the county, and the Spill Fund is that the Spill Fund is going to release both the county and the town from any liability for any past environmental contamination of that property. and for any Navigation Act claims for which the state has a substantial lien on that property. The state has also agreed that they will come in and remediate any additional Navigation Act problems that are found there. We're not anticipating there will be. But if when we tear down the building on the property, they are going to inspect the property, and they will, if there's any additional remediation because of something underneath the building, they will take care of that, and it will not be charged back either to the town or the county. In return for that release, the town has agreed to pay $10,000 to the New York State Spill Fund, which I think is a bargain. We propose to ultimately provide for that money through a bonding resolution, which we have on for tonight. In the short term, we may have to tap into our unexpended fund balance just to get that money until we actually do the bonding. And we have a resolution on the agenda for tonight, which authorizes us to bond up to $85,000. And I think the period of usefulness is 25 years. We could actually bond for that period of time. Once we own the property and actually get firm estimates, we've had our engineer do estimates for us. We will know how much we have to bond, but I suspect we'll wind up having to bond substantially less than that, and we're hopeful we can. We've negotiated very hard with the county also. And I'm pleased to say that we have come to terms on an agreement this afternoon. It's still being put into final form. I will have that tomorrow. And the county is going to be taking title to the property through an in rem proceeding. They will take title. They will commit themselves to take title as of July 1st. There has to be a formal order of the Supreme Court which grants title to the county. After that proceeding, there was a redemption period up to this time. I think it expired on May 28th or May 29th, and that has expired. There's about $50,000 that are owed in taxes on that property, and I'm pleased to tell you that the county is not going to require the town to pay any of those taxes. We will be getting the property free and clear of all accrued taxes through the July 1st school taxes. The only tax that we will have to pay on the property will be the January state, county, and town tax, and thereafter, as of March 1st, it'll be taken off the tax rolls because it'll become public property. And we've agreed, both with the spill fund and with the county, that when we acquire title to the property, we are going to keep it for public purposes. We can't take advantage of this and sell it to a private individual. And we're anticipating, we don't have firm plans for this, but it will be not a park, but it will be a green space. And the building will be torn down, and hopefully the property will be landscaped, and we are hoping that expeditiously we'll be able to get rid of the derelict cars that have been such a blight on that cars and trucks that have been such a blight on that property. So all of this is good news, and I have a resolution on the agenda tonight which would allow the supervisor to sign the final agreement. We're still waiting for the final agreement from the spill fund, which I thought we would get this afternoon, but we'll probably have it tomorrow morning, and also the final agreement from the county, which I also think we'll get tomorrow morning. But we have certainly draft copies which we provided to the town board. So the resolution that's going to be on the agenda, is to allow the town supervisor to sign those contracts in final form, in substantially the same form as what we have supplied to the town, but subject to possible modifications with the approval of the comptroller and the attorney to the town. This is a subject to SEQRA review, environmental review, and I have prepared a short form environmental assessment form with every action of the town board that it takes unless it's exempt from SEQRA review, the town board does have to do an environmental review.
Warren, before you do that, could I just make a
Sure.
couple comments?
Yeah.
One, I just wanted to make sure folks were aware that there is a fact sheet that Warren and I worked on explaining the whole agreement that we've come to with the county and the state, and it's on the town website if anyone's watching and would like to look at that, which is at hydeparkny.us. I also just wanted to let folks know that the response among the residents of GREENTREE has been so overwhelmingly positive. I haven't heard a single negative comment. I brought along 6 families who emailed me, just so pleased that something is finally happening. I mean, these folks work hard every day to take care of their properties, and it's really not fair that their property values are pulled down by this eyesore at the entrance to the neighborhood. So, you know, I think that people are very supportive of this project, and I also got a couple of people who mentioned that they'd be happy to help when we get to the point of landscaping. So I'm hopeful that when this finally does come together, $85,000 is a conservative estimate, but I don't think we're really going to need that much, because I think the neighborhood's going to pitch in and get this done. So.
Okay, well, I think I'll just use that opportunity to make a few comments too, and just to thank Warren and Emily for their dedication to this. This process began, I think, in 2012 when we first went to Albany to to seek the approval and cooperation of the spill fund, and the county representatives accompanied us at that time. And it's been a steady pressure that has culminated in us actually achieving this goal of the purchase of this property. And I'd like to just extend my gratitude and appreciation to our county executive who really made this happen. And I think it's just a great example of government actually solving problems. And I think for many people, they consider this an unsolvable problem. But really that we have put all these pieces together and are actually solving it for the people. It's going to be one of the things that I'm most proud of when I leave office, I have to say. So I'm grateful again for everybody's work and cooperation, and the county's been a great partner for us in many instances, and not just this, because we have another item on the agenda that we've worked very closely with, and it really is government working the way it should be.
Yeah, I wanted to thank our county executive, Mr. Molinaro, and the county attorney, Jim Fedorchuk. We worked very hard, sometimes a little bitterly, trying to get this put together. But we came to a nice resolution today, and
That's great.
I think the county is hopeful that this will become a prototype for several other blighted properties that exist throughout the county, that they can take off the tax rolls and the municipalities can put to constructive use.
Excellent. Okay, so is the next step to do this?
So the environmental assessment is a very simple, short-form environmental assessment form. I've sent that on. It should be part of the record. But basically, the part 1 is just information about the project, and I'll just read a description of the project. The town will acquire title to a .49 acre parcel of land improved by a derelict former garage building from the County of Dutchess after Dutchess County takes title pursuant to an in-rem proceeding for the sum of, there's a mistake, I put $1, it's actually $10.
$10.
So the cost went up.
You better consult with
Yeah.
TC on that.
The town will enter into a 3-way agreement with the Dutchess County and New York State, providing in relevant part for the release of all liability for past and future cleanup costs for the property pursuant to Article 12 of the Navigation Law, and will pay to the state the sum of $10,000 in consideration for the release of such liability. The town shall also pass a bonding resolution authorizing the bonding of up to $85,000 to pay for the acquisition and cleanup costs for the property. Upon taking title, the town will demolish the building and remove the existing building on site, and will create a green space, but not a park, for public enjoyment. I can't promise the town how quickly we'll actually get to demolishing the building. That's going to take a little bit of time, so don't worry. Don't expect that next week everything is going to disappear and it will become magically green. we also have to deal with those derelict trucks on the property. So basically, I've answered the questions with regard to potential impacts on the environment in the negative. I hope you agree with all my analysis. And I've taken the liberty of going through the Part 2 of the environmental assessment form, and also have answered on the assumption that the town board will agree with me, that for each identified possible impact that's listed in the short form, there will be no impact on the environment. And if the board, what I did do is I did not prepare Part 3, which is not required for this because we didn't identify any large impacts. And what I just need a vote of the board now, it can be oral, to adopt the Part 1 information and to adopt the Part 2. And then the resolution I prepared actually issues what we call a negative SEQRA declaration, indicating that no draft environmental impact statement will have to be prepared. So if we could just take an oral roll call
Okay.
on the environmental.
Can I make a motion that we adopt the Part 1 and Part 2 as provided?
Second?
And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. I have another environmental review that I have to go
Okay.
through that's not on the agenda. I hope you don't
So,
mind.
do we have a motion to add an additional?
I make a motion.
Environment?
Second.
And all in favor? Aye. And this is for the transfer of our water and sewer districts.
This is also a project that we have been working on for a very long time. As you know, the town was awarded a local government efficiency grant in the total amount of $175,000 from the New York State Department of State to study the water systems and the sewage systems for the town, and the feasibility of transferring the assets and the infrastructure for these systems to Dutchess County Wastewater Authority. And we've conducted those studies. We've had public hearings on those studies. I think the consensus from the public was clearly in favor of moving forward with the dissolution of with the transfer of the assets to Dutchess County Wastewater, and we are happy that they have agreed to accept the transfer of assets. The assets are going to be transferred. It's going to be a phased transfer, and there are some bonds that have to be taken care of and taken into account. So it's not going to happen all at once. And we have also negotiated with Jonathan Churns and Bridget Barclay and Jerry Camados, the attorney for the county, a very detailed agreement for the transfer of the water and wastewater systems, which covers all of the legal points with regard to this transfer. I have provided a copy of the draft agreement to the town board, and we have a few minor details that we are just clearing up, and there was one major problem with the agreement that we were informed the county is agreeing to remove from the agreement. So we should have the final agreement within the next few days. Nothing in this agreement is a surprise. It basically just is we call it a roadmap for basically the town transferring the assets, the infrastructure, and Dutchess County taking over authority for administering these districts and the water and sewer supply. And we're hopeful that the citizens of the town and of the districts will greatly benefit from this process. So what we do have on the agenda, and I'm just going to add that to the agenda, I hope it's not a problem, a resolution basically allowing the town supervisor to sign the agreement in basically the same form as we have, with some minor changes subject to the approval of the town controller and the attorney to the town, which we expect to have done in the next couple of days. We're all anxious to get moving on this, so we didn't want to delay this for another month so that DCWA can start working on this, and I'm
Make
sure
the motion?
they're happy. So, not
And-
yet, but,
okay.
oh, yes.
He wants to make a motion.
to-
I'll make the motion.
to add it to the
To
agenda.
add to the agenda.
Okay, great,
And-
thank you.
That's number 20, right? Or
I don't
It
know.
would
what
be,
20.
Yeah.
no, it would be 19.
19, I think, 'cause I
Right,
think
it
we
would
have an
be
extra.
number 19, because we decided
We don't
to-
have a
It's
19.
labeled 20
The
on
19
here,
is
but
incorrect, that there's no 19.
There is no 19, so this will be resolution number 19.
This would be number 19.
okay, so the one that says 20 on top.
We
is
just need to mark
actually
that 19.
Yeah, the one that says the spill fund, that's not a resolution. So we have that. Again, I have to go through you don't have copies of this, so I'm just going to
We call the board for
distribute
that?
this. Oh, you have to vote on that, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and all in favor?
Aye.
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 Just pass this down. This is another short form. Did I give you two? Let me have one more. Just,
Oh, you can,
we have another short form environmental assessment form. Again, and I don't think I mentioned last
I can watch. Do you have enough? Here.
The last one was what we call a unlisted action under SEQRA. It's not a type 1 action. And the town is the only involved agency. In this project also, the town is the only involved agency, and we've listed it as a unlisted action under SEQRA. The county has already done their SEQRA review for their portion of the project. Probably we might have been able to rely on that, but I thought just in an exercise of caution, we would do our own SEQRA review. So what I've taken is a short form environmental assessment form, and I've added a lot of supplements to that to refer to the actions for each of the sewer and water systems that the town is going to be taking over. And I've described the action in a similar fashion to what I've already described tonight. And we have certain information about the systems, and we have maps attached to the resolution indicating the boundaries of each of the districts. And again, I would just ask, and I've filled out all of the answers to the Part 1 in a manner that would indicate that there is no potential impact of this transfer. And I've also taken the liberty of answering the questions in Part 2, also in the negative, that there would be no substantial impact. So if the board agrees with that, I would just ask that there be a resolution adopting the Part 1 and Part 2 of the environmental assessment form for the DCWWA transfer project.
So moved. That's nice.
And
Second?
all in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Okay, and again, in the resolution, we've issued a negative declaration indicating that there'll be no environmental impact. So with that, I'm done with my housekeeping stuff.
All righty.
I'd like to just go back to the GREENTREE for a second. Not as a town official, but as a resident, I really want to thank Emily and Aileen Rohr for the amount of work and diligence that you guys put into this. Yeah, I know there was a lot of roadblocks, and as a resident that has to drive past there numerous amount of times a day sometimes, it's going to be an exciting day when we take ownership and clean that up. And I know that before we even ran, that was a vision that Emily had, and I congratulate her for being beaten down and getting back up and fighting for that corner and for those residents. So on behalf
Absolutely.
of me as a resident, not a town official, I want to say thank you, and I really do appreciate your work on that.
I agree. Absolutely.
Warren really carried the torch here, got it done, so.
Well, thank you guys. Good
Yes,
team
thank
You're
you very
welcome.
much. It was terrific.
Okay, so actually, I missed the acceptance of minutes, so may I have a motion to accept the minutes from our June 1st meeting?
motion?
And a second? And all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So moving on, I'd like to invite any resident up to the podium to offer their comments on any of the resolutions before us. Please state your name and your address, and limit your comments to 3 minutes. So please come on up. Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
I live in Greentree Park, Seth Sheridan, Leslie Sheridan. I'm very glad to hear what's going on. I do have one question. You discussed the trucks that are there, and I know with landlords, with squatter tenants, it's sometimes a legal battle to get them to get out. Is there any plans or any idea of what might go on with, because now not only do you have Quirk there, but you have the garage that's across the street now has vehicles in the property also. So I just didn't want to find out that now that's going to be a roadblock and take several months to get them legally out of there.
We're working on that. Notice of violation have been sent to the owners of those trucks. I believe that they're actually represented by Mr. Haran, the owners of the truck, and has been fighting that. We're hoping that the Zoning Board of Appeals, and I think they've appealed that to the ZBA, and we're going to we'll decide, we'll leave that in the hands of the Zoning Board of Appeals. But I can tell you that once the town owns the property, it will be a lot easier to get rid of those trucks than it has been where there's another owner of record for that property. So we expect that after the ownership, regardless of what happens in the ZBA or notices of violation or what's happened in the past, that the process will be expedited to remove those trucks.
That's good to hear.
Yes.
Again, thank you very much, because I have been to meetings on the property over several years and had just what you said. There's nothing we can do. It's not a property of value to us, so we have no interest in. So again, thank you very much.
I
You're
wanted
very
to add
welcome.
something. You had said, hi, Ken.
Hi.
You had said earlier that when you passed by there, it would be nice one day to see it look nice. We've lived there for 20 years. We moved in 1996. We have 2 children, one who is graduating from FDR this weekend.
Congratulations.
And thank you. And one who will be a sophomore at FDR this fall. 10 years ago, about 11 years ago, actually, we moved out of the house we originally moved into, and we were very, very positive that we wanted to build our own house in the neighborhood, and we finally did find a parcel there, because we do love the neighborhood. It's the perfect place to raise a family, and it will be just even more nice when people drive by there, or, we can really, really respect our neighborhood with a nice sign and flowers, not what it looks like now. So, thank you, Emily. You're welcome. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
And congratulations again. Enjoy your weekend.
Good evening, Michael
Good evening.
Dupree, 30 Curry Lane. I want to speak about resolutions 10, 11, and 12. First, I want to applaud your appointment of the individuals you're going to appoint tonight to the planning board. Just briefly, even though, and my colleague, one of our vice chairs, Bob Groninger, is here in the room, even though I don't think it makes an intellectual difference to have more women on, we've had 6 men and 1 woman on for a long time now, and it's nice to see a representation of the board that would look more like our community, which is not 60 or 90% men. So first, thank you for appointing the individuals you're doing that way. Second, Diane DiNapoli, one of the new appointees, is a perfect example of what we need on the planning board. She was a small business owner here in Hyde Park. She and her sister moved here to open Journey Inn. They sold it. She's now in real estate, but they sold the business and it's still in operation, so she brings that kind of perspective. In addition, Diane was on the Zoning Board of Appeals for a couple of years before that, so she's familiar with land use and zoning. So that's kind of like having a leg up to get on the planning board. The other person you're appointing, Tori Kane, was actually sitting up there for 2 terms representing where I live, where David and I live, Ward 2. She worked on the original zoning before it was finally passed, helped get the comprehensive plan passed, and was also, before being elected, was on the Zoning Board of Appeals. So her background is really, really, really strong. She's been an alternate this past year and just helped us finish a commercial application and made very thoughtful, intelligent comments. So thank you for those 2. Now, the other half of what I have to say is tinged with definite sadness. I really didn't want to forward the resignation letters that I received from my 2 colleagues that I did to you guys. Frank Marsigliano was appointed by the Martino administration and has been a wonderful addition to the planning board. Aileen, I know you worked with him when you were on with us. He's a maritime attorney, and that kind of background, his attention to detail was really, really, really welcomed on the planning board. He always made thoughtful comments, and he expressed himself with always a care about the town. And he had just moved here and actually joined, and it was great to have someone who loved the town so quickly join the board. His presence is going to be missed, both on the planning board and in Hyde Park. He's moving to Rhinebeck. That's why he resigned. The other person who resigned, Ed Signa, you guys got to appoint, and Ed was one of my favorite members of the planning board. I'll just put it that way. We're required to have 4 hours of training every year. Ed's been getting about 65.
Wow.
That's the kind of dedication he brought to the board. Training not just in stormwater or endangered, threatened, rare species, but land use law in general, solar panels, you name it, Ed was there getting training. Ed always took it seriously. He's one of the ones that read through every environmental assessment form carefully with me. So it wasn't just the consultants and me doing it, but he really got in there and nose down. As you all know, he has a family situation that required him to step down. So I just want to acknowledge the contributions that both Ed and Frank made. I regret losing them, but I can't think of two people better suited to take their place and join us on the important work of the planning board. So thank you very much. And now if I could have just 2 seconds. Also as a resident, I'm really excited to see this happen on 9G. 9G's seen some incredible improvements lately with commercial sites revamping themselves. Councilman Svensson had an article, I think, in the Poughkeepsie Journal about this. And it's great when you see property owners invest, but it's also even better when the town can take some initiative and work to solve what had seemed an intractable problem. I know Councilman Linville, when he was Ward 1, had worked on this with Vicki Camp when she was the chair of the 9G Corridor Committee. And they always hit a stumbling block that made it seem as though it couldn't go any further. And you guys going to the state, I think, and having county executives' assistance really turned this. So just as someone who lives here and appreciates the fact that a resident just said what a great place it is to raise a family, this is going to make it even better. So thanks again for your hard work.
Thank you for all your hard work on the
Thank you,
planning
Michael.
board.
Yes, appreciate those pertinent comments.
Thank you.
Our best to Ed and Frank, too.
Thank you.
James Horan, Cream Street. Just have a question regarding Resolution 17 as amended at the dais. The original resolution that was published stated that the resolution was subject to the passage of a bonding resolution by the town to provide sufficient funds for the acquisition and removal of the building. And the amended resolution omits that language, so I'm assuming that whether or not the bond passes, it's the intent of the board to move forward with the purchase. Also, with respect to the environmental assessment, the last time I appeared before the board with respect to this issue, I was contacted by a number of people who were familiar with the history of the property and indicated to me that there had been vehicles buried in the back. There had been pits dug for disposal of oil and fluids and batteries and other things associated with the site. My reading of the navigation law indicates that the spill fund is only available for cleanup of petroleum spills, so to the extent that there's lead batteries or hydraulic fluid, brake fluid, acids, other things of that sort, that the spill fund would not be available to pay for cleanup of those. Just wondered if the board was aware of that. In Mr. Raplansky's discussion of the environmental impacts, I didn't hear reference to a Phase 1 or a Phase 2 environmental study. Typically, if this was a commercial property, before a bank would lend any money on the property, they'd require a Phase 1 environmental assessment. And in case where there's an indication that there was a spill on the property, a Phase 2 environmental study. But I didn't hear any reference to that, so the assumption would be that there isn't any. And then with respect to the permissive referendum, again, I think the public has a right to know whether or not, if the permissive referendum is not adopted, whether the board needs to go forward. For the public's information, 277 signatures is required for a permissive referendum for that bond. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have any comments? Okay.
Hi, Jeanette Martino. I appreciate your efforts to address the eyesore issue, but I don't think you have adequately addressed the contamination issue, which is what I'm going to talk about. I would like to bring up the question of remediation that is central to this resolution, along with the board's lack of transparency and the board's failure of providing information to the public through full disclosure of the potential hazards and liabilities of acquiring the Greentree property. Councilwoman Svensson on April 20th made the statement concerning the property. The site has been remediated and the contamination has all been removed. The one thing that the board has not adequately informed the public is that the term remediation as applied by the DEC is qualitative. The cleanup or remediation of a contaminated site by DEC needs only to be achieved to the extent feasible. The cleanup achieved at this site has not returned the site to the pre-petroleum spill conditions. There are still contaminants present in its post-cleanup condition that result in the DEC classifying it for health reasons as restricted use only. The extent and impact of contaminants are still remaining, requires further investigation before the purchase of this property. For the soil contamination DEC policy, these are the recommendations. The site or area of concern is fully investigated to determine the nature and extent of contamination. All sources of contamination are addressed. Groundwater, if contaminated, has been evaluated for appropriate remedial actions and impacts on adjacent residential properties. Surface water and aquatic ecological resources are evaluated. Since any action by the DEC is discretionary and is subject to budgetary restraints, these 4 areas might not have been adequately investigated and followed up by DEC. This seems to be the case. The contamination was the result from a gas station's underground petroleum storage tank leak, and this has greater potential for environmental contamination issues than just a surface spill. A prudent, more consistent prudent move consistent with due diligence by any town would be to take a hard look at the property with a history of this type of underground petroleum and benzene compounds contamination before acquiring it. This board has not done that. You are pushing the acquisition of the property through with full knowledge of the environmental issues it brings with you, and you are solely relying on the NF, the New York State Spill Fund, to financially counter any potential liabilities and costly remediation that will be needed. There is every indication from the adjacent southern property that there has been groundwater contamination from this petroleum storage tank leak. This is consistent with current findings that MTBE moves quickly through the soil, dissolves in the groundwater, flows with the same velocity as groundwater, and has the potential to travel distances from the release site. You've done, your town engineer and the Eco Strategies conducted an environmental investigation of this site, but why hasn't this been discovered yet? This could prove to be very, very, very costly, and I really suggest that before you move on this, to take the time, do a more intensive study on this property to make sure that in the future, after all, Haviland took years and years to resolve with groundwater contamination, and you know what? The fund was not that great doing it. So I'd hate to see the town go back and, revisit the same situations that Haviland had to go through. Thank you.
Thank you. Would you like
Just a
to?
response
Sure.
to the board. I just want to emphasize again that I think Mr. Haran should disclose to the public before he makes such comments that he's actually representing the individual who the town has been trying to get to remove those trucks from the property. So that his interest in this may not be entirely motivated by the interest of the public. The bond resolution is not, the purchase of the property from the county is not conditioned on the passage of the bond resolution. The town will acquire the property, and if it's put up for a referendum, we'll deal with that at the appropriate time. There has been extensive investigation and examination of the site, both by the town engineers and by Ecosystem Strategies, an environmental review firm, that have all reviewed the complete records of the DEC with regard to the remediation of the site under the Navigation Act. And based upon the recommendations of those experts, the town has decided to move forward with the acquisition of this property. There is no MTB contamination that we know of. I don't know why that would have been said, and perhaps the reason why these things weren't discovered is because they weren't there. In any case, I think we feel pretty confident in terms of the due diligence that's been conducted by the town and by its experts in moving forward with the acquisition of this property.
Well said.
If I can make one comment, I just want to say to Emily, if I was not a resident of Ward 3, but a resident of your ward, I would be very, very pleased with the hard work that you've done for your neighbors. You know, we in Ward 3 and Ward 4, it's easy for us to kind of sit back and go, well, it's not our neighborhood, we don't want you to spend money on it. But if it was in our neighborhood, we would want the town to invest the money.
Thanks, Hannah. I think that's a
So
very
thank
good
you,
point.
Emily.
Thanks.
Yeah, well, it's Hyde Park. We're all together on this, so, you know,
Very
we're a
well
team. That's
And
the way
I
I
don't
look
think
at
it's
it.
going to be a whole lot of money when it comes right down to it. so.
No.
Listen,
Well, and we're dealing with what is there. Let's just lay that on the line, okay? We're not creating something. Whatever's there is there. As we all know, we've all seen daily, hourly, unfortunately for those who live in that neighborhood. So it's not as if to imply that we're actually creating something that's contaminated. That's so what we're doing is actually improving the situation in so many ways, even by the removal of the building and having the DEC come in and do any additional cleanup. So it's a win-win.
What I love about this board and our town attorney is that we don't have a pony in this race. You know, we're trying to do what's right for the town residents. And, you know, when you have a prior town attorney that's representing a squatter, that's why things in Hyde Park didn't happen for many, many years. And when you have clean hands up on the board, you can do what's right for the town. You can do what's right for the residents. Emily brought along 6 emails. We have, you know, residents that came here today that have loved that community and built a home in that community. And I just love and respect that. And, you know, I said coming into this town hall and walking out of this town hall that I walked in with my head high, and I'm going to walk out the same way. And I know that we can continue to do that, so I appreciate that.
If I may, to the board, as my name's been brought up several times, let me just make my point clear with respect to the record. I'm not against this building being torn down or the property being remediated. I think it's a bad move for the town to purchase the property. There are other methods that the town can achieve the same goals without purchasing the real estate.
Thank you for
welcome.
your comments. Okay,
And
shall
I would like to say and go on the record, you've had your say, Mr. Haran. I want to go on the record as saying that we have been trying for over a year to get Mr. Haran's client to move those trucks off this property, and we have been fought every step of the way. Unfortunately, or fortunately maybe, this is the only remedy that the town felt it had to get rid of those trucks and remediate that property. If Mr. Haran's client had cooperated and removed those trucks from the property, there may have been other things that could have been done.
Absolutely. So we are solving an unsolvable problem with the cooperation of our county and our state governments, and for that I'm proud and thankful. So I think we should move on to, unless would anyone from the remaining public like to come up and speak? Okay.
Great.
So can we move on to the resolutions, please?
Resolution 622-1 of 2015, resolution recognizing and accepting the independent audit financial reports for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2014, and the independent audit report on communication of internal control matters identified in the audit.
Second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 622-2 of 2015, resolution authorizing the attorney to the town to execute consent judgments in settlement of tax cert petitions.
Second?
And all in favor?
Aye.
Oh, boy.
It's a long one.
Resolution 622-3 of 2015, resolution authorizing the town supervisor to execute the 2016-2018 Dutchess County Urban County Consortium requalification ballot and the amendment to the existing cooperation agreement dated June 29, 2000, with the County of Dutchess for the purpose of undertaking community development block grant and home investment programs pursuant to Title I of the Housing and Community Development Act of 1974 as amended, and Title II of the National Affordable Housing Act of 1990 as amended.
Second.
And all in
No.
favor?
Yeah. Aye.
Just
Quickly, what that means is that, you know, urbanized areas, the towns can decide to participate with the county to be part of the CDBG program, or they can opt out and try to participate separately, and it just makes more sense to be part of the team. Is that right?
Right, that is right. And this just allows us to do that.
I just thought, we skipped over it, I was concentrating on something else when you did the tax certiorari. I just wanted to explain on the tax certiorari.
Wait, we didn't do that yet. Oh, yes,
Did that-
okay,
that was-
sorry.
Yeah.
That was me.
Why we're settling these cases and how we're settling these cases. These are important tax certiorari cases for the town. They all involve the Meadows and Hyde Park subdivision, and we've come to it's a sort of an anomalous situation where the property has never been fully developed by the owners of the property, so that we have vacant, partially built buildings on the site, and we also have properties that can't be constructed on until they move forward with the subdivision. So they've challenged their assessments, and we've agreed to reduce those assessments, sort of using a carrot and stick method, where we will reduce the assessments not to anywhere near what they wanted, but to a certain amount, and with the agreement that if the property does not move forward in terms of creating the infrastructure so that they can finish the subdivision within a certain amount of time, or if the lots are sold, that the town will have the ability to reassess those properties. So just wanted to let you know that.
Warren's been doing a lot of these tax certs that had accumulated over the years, and we're slowly going through them and resolving them, so thank you for that. Okay.
Resolution 622-4 of 2015, resolution authorizing payment of plumbing expenses.
Second.
And all in favor?
Aye. Thank you.
Resolution 622-5 of 2015, resolution appointing David Ray as Town Board Liaison to the Building Department and Planning Zoning Department.
Second?
And all in favor? Aye.
I
And
was going to
I,
argue that, but
Look out, look out.
well, give Dave a pat on the back. We're good at that tonight, and so he gets a big one. He actually really enjoys trying to resolve these property maintenance issues, and he's excellent at it, and he goes out and talks to the people and tries to put the right people in place, and thank you for that, Dave.
David, I got one
Getting,
full point.
Cooperation from zoning and building departments, so it's going to work out good. I got a call tonight just before I got here, too, from another.
Okay, well, go call him
Yeah.
back.
David, after the meeting, Salt Point Turnpike, I got a house. for you.
Yeah,
I got to mow my lawn, Kenny.
okay. Should
Oh,
we?
now it's mine, I guess.
Okay.
Resolution 622-6 of 2015, resolution authorizing the balance of escrow for Diablo and Vianney project.
Second?
And all in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 622-7 of 2015, resolution authorizing emergency purchase of an air conditioning condenser unit for the building department.
Second.
And all in favor?
Aye. Resolution 622-8 of 2015, resolution authorizing the town engineer to solicit proposal for the purchase and installation of an air conditioning unit for the town hall media room.
Second. And all in favor?
Aye.
Do we need that?
Yes.
Okay. No, I just, there was like two different,
No, we do.
Right.
We absolutely do, and
Okay.
really-
it's
yeah.
it's actually critical that we
Gotcha.
keep the computer servers cool.
all right.
Resolution 622-9 of 2015, a resolution authorizing the receiver of taxes to collect the water warrant for 3 Greenbush residents.
Second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 622-10 of 2015, resolution acknowledging the resignations of Frank Marcangiano as a member of the Town of Hyde Park Planning Board.
Second?
And all in favor?
Aye.
And I can't really improve on what Michael said, but just we wish Frank a lot of luck and thank him for his service
Yeah.
to the town.
Yeah, absolutely.
Resolution 622-11 of 2015, resolution acknowledging the resignation of Victoria Kane as alternate member of the Town of Hyde Park Planning Board and appointing Victoria Kane as member of the Planning Board.
Second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Welcome, Victoria.
Resolution 622-12 of 2015, resolution appointing Diane DiNapoli as member of the planning board.
Second?
And all in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 622-13 of 2015, resolution to waive the 30-day advance notice of a liquor license for on-premises consumption.
Second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 622-14 of 2015, resolution authorizing town supervisor and police chief to sign an intermunicipal agreement among various Dutchess County departments, agencies, fire districts, and municipalities for a juvenile fire setters intervention response education, JFIRE program.
Second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 622-15 of 2015, resolution authorizing the building inspector, Don Westermeyer, to carry over accrued vacation time.
Second?
And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Resolution 622-16 of 2015, resolution authorizing town supervisor to execute an agreement between the town of Hyde Park and Panitia Holding Corp. DBA, a Royal Karting Service Company.
Second?
And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And I just want to make note that there is a new fee schedule, and that would be on our website, so residents might want to take a look before they head over to the transfer station, just to confirm what the prices are.
They are charging for recycling now,
Yeah,
which is a
yep.
change.
And yes, slight increase on some other things.
But we also still have in the agreement that...
Yes, we do, Mr. Schneider.
Excellent.
Pick up.
The
Hey,
agreement
that-
is that all the garbage from all of our facilities is picked up at no charge.
That's right. Thank you
Save
for
the taxpayers.
negotiating that.
Absolutely, thank you.
Now, for 17, do we need to do anything about amending it? It says as amended, or is that all
Yeah, that
set?
would be as amended, because I added another paragraph.
But we don't need a resolution or a motion to amend it. It's-
No, just adopting, if you want to be
Let's do that.
hyper-technical.
Yeah, let's be careful.
Yeah, we did it.
Okay, so
So
tell
I
us
make a
what to
motion-
do.
So we need
to, what would it be, to use this version?
to accept the amended proposed resolution instead of the original proposed resolution.
Okay, what Warren said. I make a
Okay.
motion to use
And
the
we have a
amended
second?
version.
Second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
So, Resolution 62217 of 2015, resolution expressing the town board's intent to acquire title to tax parcel number 133-200-6165-02-547872-0000, located at 1381 Route 9G in the town of Hyde Park.
Second?
And that also, part of the resolution is that you're issuing a negative secret declaration, and you're also authorizing the supervisor to sign the agreements with the spill fund and the county in final form, subject to the approval of the controller and the attorney to the town.
Excellent.
And do we have a second?
Yep.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Resolution 622-18 of 2015, a resolution authorizing, subject to permissive referendum, the issuance of $85,000 in bonds of the town of Hyde Park, Dutchess County, New York, to pay the cost of the acquisition of a parcel of land and the building thereon in and for said town.
Second?
Does this need a roll call? Being
Yes.
as we're borrowing? Okay.
Yeah, bonding resolution, yes.
Madam Clerk, could you please call the board?
Councilwoman Svensson.
Aye.
Councilman Ray.
Aye.
Councilwoman Barron's. Councilman Schneider.
Yes.
Supervisor Rohr.
Aye.
And do we need a motion to add 19? Or did we do that?
I thought we did
You
that.
made it.
that.
I think you
Okay.
did that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I imagine there are a lot of people excited to see this resolution finally on the
I think there's
agenda.
one in this room. It's been a long process.
Resolution 622-19 of 2015, resolution authorizing the town supervisor to execute an agreement for transfer of the Hyde Park water and wastewater systems to the Dutchess County Wastewater Authority.
And second, and all in favor? Aye.
Emily, this resolution should go to the Historical Society and get framed because it's historic.
Yeah,
Okay.
and the fun is just beginning for the water authority.
So
let me tell you.
I don't think we have any correspondence. I did just want to make note that in July and August, we only have one town board meeting, and July's will be July 13th, and we have a public hearing at that time to discuss the the dissolution of the Harvard Hills Water District.
Correct.
Okay?
And remember, we have music in the parks on Wednesday, so stop in Hyde Park, grab a pizza, or stop at the diner and grab a little bottle of wine and go listen to some great music in the parks.
And of course, the 4th of July parade.
4th of July
is
parade.
coming up, and I
On the
think
4th?
on the 4th. I think it's a Saturday, isn't it, this year, which is
Yeah.
great. And just an update on Hackett House. It's the painter's doing an awesome job. It looks really good. He's got the primer coat on, so that's good. And with that, I think I would like a motion to close the meeting.
I make a motion.
And a second?
Second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Made the motion.